Dr. Amanda Clark wiped the sweat from her forehead as she worked in the dusty ruins on Proxima Centauri b. The alien structures around her looked like melted glass, twisted into shapes that hurt her eyes to look at too long. She had been studying the Kalari civilization for 3 months now, and every day brought new mysteries. The Kalari had been advanced. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had created. Yet something had killed them all. Every city on their world was empty. No bodies, no signs of battle. Just empty buildings and strange crystal devices scattered everywhere. Amanda picked up another crystal from the rubble. It was warm to the touch and glowed with a soft blue light. She placed it into her scanner and waited for the translation program to work. The Kalari language was complex, but her team had made good progress in understanding it. The scanner beeped. Amanda looked at the screen and felt her blood turn cold. The blue world's inhabitants guard what must never wake. Do not disturb them. Do not go there. They protect something worse than extinction itself. She read the message 3 times to make sure she understood it correctly. Blue world. That could only mean Earth. But what did it mean about guarding something? And who were they talking about when they said inhabitants? Amanda called out to her assistant Kevin Hayes, who was working on the other side of the ruins. "Kevin, come. Look at this." Kevin walked over, his boots crunching on the crystalline debris. He was young and eager, fresh out of university. This was his first mission to another world, and his excitement had not faded even after months of dusty work. "What did you find?" he asked. Amanda showed him the scanner. Kevin's face went pale as he read the message. "Earth? They're talking about Earth?" "It looks that way," Amanda said. "But why would an alien race leave a warning about our planet?" Before Kevin could answer, Amanda's communicator buzzed. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came through the speaker. "All teams return to the ship. We have incoming weather." Amanda looked up at the sky. The orange clouds were getting darker, and she could see lightning in the distance. Proxima Centauri had terrible storms that could last for days. She and Kevin quickly packed their equipment and headed back to their ship, the Horizon's Edge. Once they were safely aboard, Amanda went straight to the communication room. She needed to contact Earth about this discovery. But first, she wanted to check something. Over the past few weeks, other research teams had been studying different alien ruins throughout this sector of space. Maybe they had found similar messages. Amanda sent out requests to all the research teams in the area. Within hours, the responses started coming back. Each one made her more worried than the last. Dr. Sarah Kim from the Valdres ruins found identical message. Aquatic species warned about blue world inhabitants. Professor Mike Torres from the Nethic sites, same warning discovered here. Crystalline beings left message about Earth Guardians. Dr. Lisa Park from 3 different dig sites. All locations contain Earth warnings, 17 separate messages found. Amanda sat back in her chair, feeling dizzy. 17 different alien species, all warning about Earth, all saying that humans were protecting something dangerous. She opened a communication channel to Earth and waited for the signal to reach Admiral Chris Bennett at Colonial Defense Headquarters. The delay was frustrating, but faster-than-light communication was still impossible. When the Admiral's face appeared on the screen an hour later, Amanda wasted no time. "Admiral, we have a situation. Multiple alien civilizations have left warnings about Earth. They all say the same thing." Admiral Bennett was a serious man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been dealing with humanity's expansion into space for 20 years, and nothing surprised him anymore. But as Amanda explained what they had found, his expression grew more concerned. "Send me all the data," he said finally. "I'll have our best analysts look at it." "There's more, sir," Amanda said. "All of these civilizations are dead, every single one. They left these warnings and then vanished without a trace." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "How many species are we talking about?" 17 confirmed so far. But we're still finding more sites. Admiral, what if there's something about Earth that we don't know? Something dangerous? I'll look into it, Admiral Bennett said. Keep studying those ruins. Find out everything you can about what happened to these species. The communication ended, and Amanda was left alone with her thoughts. She returned to the lab where Kevin was still working on translating more Kellery crystals. Find anything else? She asked. Kevin nodded grimly. More warnings, but also something else. Look at this. He showed her his scanner. The new message was longer than the others. The Watchers came from the sky long ago. They chose the ape creatures and changed them, made them strong, made them angry, made them perfect guards. The sleepers beneath the third world's crust must never wake. The Watchers knew this. They made the apes into something that could fight forever. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. Ape creatures? Are they talking about humans? It gets worse, Kevin said. He pulled up another translation. This one talks about the third world from the star. That has to be Earth. And listen to this part. We tried to warn them, tried to make them understand. But the Watchers made them too well. The guards do not know what they guard. They think they are free, but they are slaves to a purpose they cannot see. Amanda sat down hard in her chair. This doesn't make sense. We evolved on Earth. We have fossil records going back millions of years. Do we? Kevin asked quietly. Or do we have what we've been told, our fossil records? Before Amanda could respond, her communicator buzzed again. This time it was Dr. Paul Jackson from another research ship in a different star system. Amanda, you need to hear this. We just finished translating some texts from the Zorathi ruins. They mention Earth specifically. They say that 50,000 years ago, something terrible was buried there, and that guardians were placed to watch over it. Amanda's hands were shaking now. Paul, how old are these ruins? About 12,000 years old. But the texts they left behind talk about much older events. Amanda, they knew about humans before we even had written language. The communication ended, and Amanda stared at the blank screen. Around her, the ship hummed quietly as it weathered the storm outside. But the real storm was in her mind. If these alien messages were true, then everything humanity believed about itself was wrong. They weren't explorers who had left their home planet to discover the universe. They were guards, placed on Earth to protect something so dangerous that entire civilizations would rather die than risk awakening it. Amanda looked at Kevin, who was still staring at his scanner. We need to find out what's buried on Earth, she said. Do we? Kevin asked. Maybe some things are better left buried. Outside, lightning flashed across the alien sky, and Amanda wondered if they were already too late. If by simply asking these questions, they had started something that could not be stopped. She picked up another Kellery crystal and placed it in the scanner. The message that appeared made her blood freeze. They are starting to remember. The guards are asking questions. The sleeper stirs. The end begins again. Amanda looked at the timestamp on the message. It had been created yesterday, but that was impossible. The Kellery had been dead for thousands of years, unless something was still alive down in those ruins. Something that had been waiting for humans to find these messages. Something that wanted them to start asking questions about what they were really guarding on Earth. 6 months had passed since Dr. Amanda Clark first discovered the warnings about Earth. Her small research team had grown into a massive operation spread across 12 star systems. Every day brought new discoveries, and every discovery made the mystery deeper and more frightening. Amanda stood in the main lab aboard the research station Pathfinder, looking at a wall covered with alien messages. Each one said the same thing in different ways. Earth was dangerous. Humans were guards. Something terrible was sleeping beneath their home planet. Dr. Kevin Hayes walked up beside her, carrying a datapad. He looked tired. They all looked tired these days. The weight of what they were learning was taking its toll on everyone. The Andromedan samples came back, Kevin said quietly. The oldest warnings we've found so far. Amanda took the datapad and read the analysis. Her hands started shaking. 50,000 years old? 53,000, to be exact, Kevin replied. Amanda, this warning system spans multiple galaxies. Whatever is on Earth, other civilizations have been afraid of it for longer than humans. Have existed as a species. Amanda sat down in her chair and rubbed her temples. Over the past months, they had found warnings from over 40 different alien species. Not one of them had survived. Every civilization that discovered Earth and left a warning had vanished within a few hundred years. There's something else, Kevin said. He sounded nervous. The pattern analysis came back from Dr. Miller's team. The civilizations didn't just disappear randomly. They all died in the same way. What do you mean? Kevin pulled up a holographic display showing a timeline. Look at this. Each species discovers space travel. They explore their local area. They find Earth and detect whatever is down there. They leave warnings. Then exactly 73 years later, their entire civilization vanishes. No survivors, no trace. Amanda stared at the timeline. The pattern was perfect. Too perfect, too. Be natural. It's like something is hunting them down for knowing about Earth. Before Kevin could respond, Lieutenant Colonel Maya Rodriguez entered the lab. Maya was a military officer assigned to their project after the government realized how serious the situation was. She was tough and practical, and she didn't believe in aliens or ancient mysteries, but the evidence was changing her mind. Dr. Clark, we need to talk, Maya said. My team just finished the geological survey of Earth. You're not going to like what we found. Amanda and Kevin followed Maya to a secure briefing room. On the table was a detailed map of Earth showing underground structures that Amanda had never seen before. These formations are not natural, Maya said, pointing to the map. They're built from materials that don't exist anywhere else in the known universe. The entire planet is basically one giant prison. Amanda looked at the strange patterns on the map. They formed geometric shapes that covered the entire globe, all connected by underground tunnels and chambers. A prison for what? She asked. That's what we're trying to figure out, Maya replied. But whatever it is, it's big. The prison extends down to the Earth's core. And here's the really weird part. The whole system is still active. Kevin leaned forward. Active how? Maya pulled up another display showing energy readings. The structures are generating power, lots of it. They're also doing something to Earth's tectonic plates. Our geologists think the prison system is actually controlling earthquakes and volcanic eruptions to maintain itself. Amanda felt sick to her stomach. You're saying Earth's natural disasters aren't natural at all? Exactly. Something is managing the planet's geology to keep whatever is down. They're locked up tight. Before Amanda could ask more questions, her communicator buzzed. It was Ben Collins, a mining engineer who had been studying Earth's mineral deposits. Amanda, you need to get back to Earth right away. Ben's voice sounded panicked. We found something in the Sahara Desert. Something that changes everything. The trip back to Earth took 2 weeks. During the journey, Amanda couldn't stop thinking about what they might find. When they finally landed at the research site in the Sahara, she was shocked by what she saw. A massive excavation site stretched for miles across the desert. Hundreds of workers were carefully digging around what looked like a building made of black stone. But the building was clearly not human-made. Ben Collins met them at the landing pad. He was covered in dust and looked like he hadn't slept in days. We found it 3 weeks ago, he said as he led them toward the excavation. The ground-penetrating radar showed something big down there, so we started digging. What we found doesn't make sense. They walked to the edge of the dig site. Amanda looked down and gasped. The black stone structure was covered in symbols that looked familiar. She had seen them in the alien warnings. "It's a control center," Ben explained, "for the prison system. And it's designed for human hands." Amanda climbed down into the excavation. Up close, the black stone was smooth and warm to the touch. The symbols seemed to glow faintly when she looked at them directly. Dr. Tony Miller, a physicist who had joined their team, was standing near what looked like a control panel. "Amanda, come look at this. The interface is definitely made for human use. But carbon dating shows this structure is over 200,000 years old." Amanda ran her fingers over the control panel. The symbols began to glow brighter, responding to her touch. "How is that possible?" she asked. "Humans didn't even exist 200,000 years ago. Not as we are now." "That's just it," Tony said quietly. "What if we did? What if the fossil record is wrong? Or what if it's been changed?" Kevin appeared beside them, carrying a scanner. He had been analyzing the symbols on the walls. "Amanda, I've been comparing these symbols to the alien warnings. They're not just similar, they're identical. The same language appears in ruins across dozens of star systems." Amanda felt the world spinning around her. "You're saying this language was spread across the galaxy? By someone who could travel between stars 200,000 years ago," Kevin replied. "Someone who built prisons on multiple worlds and needed guards to watch them." Maya's voice came over their radios. "All teams, we have a problem. Seismic sensors are picking up activity from deep underground. Something big is moving down there." Amanda looked at the control panel. Several new symbols had begun glowing, ones that hadn't been active before. She touched one of them, and a holographic display appeared in the air above the panel. The display showed a map of the Earth, but not as Amanda knew it. This Earth was covered in a network of red lines that pulsed like blood vessels. At certain points, the lines converged into bright spots that hurt to look at. "Containment sites," Tony whispered. "There are dozens of them all over the planet." One of the bright spots was flashing urgently. It was located in the Pacific Ocean, near the Mariana Trench. Ben's voice crackled over the radio from the surface. "Seismic activity is increasing. Whatever you did down there, it triggered something." Amanda stared at the holographic display. As she watched, more containment sites began flashing. Whatever was imprisoned beneath the Earth was waking up. "We need to get out of here," Maya said over the radio. "Now," but Amanda couldn't move. She was staring at another part of the holographic display. It showed human figures, but they looked different from modern humans, stronger, faster, with strange symbols glowing beneath their skin. "Kevin," she whispered, "look at this." Kevin followed her gaze and went pale. "Those aren't normal humans." "No," Amanda said, understanding flooding through her. "They're not. They're us, or what we used to be, before someone changed us." The holographic display flickered, and new images appeared. Spaceships landing on Earth, alien beings working with primitive humans, genetic modifications being made, the construction of the prison system. "We're not from Earth," Amanda said, her voice barely audible. "We were brought here, modified, made into the perfect guards." The ground beneath their feet began to shake. Deep underground, something that had been sleeping for thousands of years was starting to wake up. And it was angry. Amanda looked at her team. They were all staring at the holographic display, trying to understand what they were seeing. "We're not explorers," she said finally. "We're prisoners, locked on this planet to guard something so dangerous that entire civilizations would rather die than risk setting it free." The symbols on the walls began flashing faster. The prison system was sending out warnings. The guards had learned the truth about themselves, and that was not supposed to happen. Far below them, in the deepest parts of the Earth, something vast and terrible stirred in its ancient prison and began to remember what it was like to be free. The news that humans were not originally from Earth spread across the planet in a matter of days. Riots broke out in major cities. Religious leaders called emergency meetings. Scientists demanded proof. Politicians tried to deny everything. But the evidence was impossible to ignore. Dr. Amanda Clark stood in the emergency command center that had been set up in Geneva. The room was filled with the world's top scientists, military leaders, and government officials. Everyone was trying to understand what they had learned about humanity's true origins. General Susan Wright, the head of Global Defense Command, was addressing the crowd. "The situation is clear," she said. "We have confirmed evidence that humans were genetically modified and placed on Earth approximately 200,000 years ago. Our purpose was to serve as guards for something imprisoned deep underground." Dr. Paul Jackson, an archaeologist who had been studying human fossil records, stepped forward. "We've re-examined every major archaeological site on Earth. The evidence was always there, but we interpreted it wrong. What we thought were natural human evolution steps were actually genetic modifications made by an advanced alien race." Amanda watched the faces around her. Some people looked angry. Others looked scared. A few looked fascinated. But everyone looked lost. Dr. Carl Anderson, one of the world's leading geneticists, had spent the past month analyzing human DNA. His findings were disturbing. Human genetics contain sequences that don't exist in any other Earth species, Carl explained. "These sequences are dormant in most people, but they can be activated under certain conditions. When activated, they enhance physical strength, reflexes, and mental abilities far beyond normal human limits." "What kind of conditions?" General Wright asked. Carl looked uncomfortable. "Extreme stress, exposure to certain energy frequencies, and proximity to the containment sites we've discovered." Amanda thought about the control center in the Sahara Desert. When she had touched the alien symbols, she had felt something change inside her, a warmth that spread through her body, a sense of awareness that she had never experienced before. Detective Ray Murphy, who had been investigating strange incidents around the world, raised his hand. "We've been tracking reports of people experiencing what they call calling dreams. People who live near the containment sites report having the same dream over and over. They dream about going underground, about opening doors that should stay closed." "How many people?" Amanda asked. "Thousands," Ray replied. "And the numbers are growing every day. It's like something is calling to them." Engineer Nicole Thompson had been studying the alien technology found at various sites around the world. She had disturbing news to share. "The containment systems are failing," Nicole announced. "They've been operating for 200,000 years, and they're breaking down. The energy signatures we're detecting from underground are getting stronger." Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. "How long do we have?" "Based on the rate of decay, maybe 6 months before the first major breach," Nicole said. "But there's something else. The technology seems to be designed to work with human operators, as if the original builders expected us to maintain and repair the systems." Dr. Tony Miller, the physicist, had been studying the energy readings from the containment sites. "The alien technology isn't just holding something prisoner," he said. "It's actively suppressing it, like a constant pressure keeping something compressed. If that pressure fails... What's down there?" General Wright demanded. "What are we supposed to be guarding?" Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. A technician rushed over to General Wright with a tablet. "Ma'am, we're getting massive seismic activity from the Mariana Trench site. The energy readings are off the charts." On the main screen, a map of the Pacific Ocean appeared. A red dot marked the location of the disturbance. As they watched, the red dot began to pulse and grow larger. "Get me a live feed from the research station," General Wright ordered. The screen changed to show underwater cameras positioned near the Mariana Trench, At first everything looked normal. The deep ocean floor was dark and quiet. Then something moved in the darkness. "What is that?" Someone whispered. The cameras adjusted their focus. What they saw made everyone in the room go silent. The ocean floor was cracking open. Through the cracks, a strange light was glowing. But it wasn't natural light. It was cold and wrong, like looking at the opposite of life itself. As they watched, things began to emerge from the cracks. They weren't creatures in any sense that humans understood. They were more like moving shadows with too many angles. They moved in ways that hurt to watch, as if they existed in more dimensions than the human eye could process. "Cut the feed," General Wright ordered, but it was too late. Everyone had seen what was down there. Amanda felt sick to her stomach. Now she understood why entire civilizations had chosen to die rather than risk awakening whatever was imprisoned. On Earth, the things they had just seen weren't just dangerous. They were wrong. They shouldn't exist. Dr. Kevin Hayes, who had been quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke up. "I've been analyzing the alien warnings we found. I think I understand what we're dealing with." Everyone turned to look at him. Kevin's face was pale, and his hands were shaking. "The warnings don't just call it a prisoner," he said. "They call it the first hunger. According to the translations, it's not from our universe. It's from somewhere else. Somewhere where the rules of reality work differently." "What does it want?" Amanda asked, though she was afraid of the answer. "To consume," Kevin replied. "Not just matter or energy. It consumes the concept of existence itself." The alien texts say that in its original dimension, it ate entire universes. It feeds on the possibility of life, growth, and creation. The room was completely silent. Everyone was trying to understand what Kevin had just told them. "The aliens who built the prison," Kevin continued. "They called themselves the architects. They were the last survivors of their universe after the first hunger consumed everything else. They escaped to our dimension and tried to warn everyone they could find, but they were dying. The only thing they could do was build prisons and create guards to watch them." "Why humans?" General Wright asked. "Why choose us?" Dr. Carl Anderson answered. "Because we were perfect for the job. Humans are naturally territorial. We're aggressive when threatened. We form strong protective bonds with our communities. We don't give up easily. And we're just intelligent enough to operate the technology, but not smart enough to try to study what we're guarding." Amanda realized something. That's why human civilization developed the way it did. Our wars, our aggression, our need to protect what's ours. It wasn't random. It was designed. "Every human instinct serves the same purpose," Carl agreed, "making us better guards. Even our expansion into space serves that purpose. If the prison fails, we need to be spread out across the galaxy, so some of us survive to rebuild the containment." The alarms were still blaring. More reports were coming in from around the world. The containment site in Antarctica was showing activity. The one under the Sahara Desert was heating up. Something in the depths of the Amazon rainforest was moving. "It's happening everywhere," Nicole reported. "All the containment sites are responding to the breach in the Mariana Trench. The whole system is connected." Amanda looked around the room, at the faces of humanity's leaders. They were all looking at her, waiting for her to say something. Somehow she had become the expert on humanity's greatest threat. "We need to activate the Guardian protocols," she said quietly. "What does that mean?" General Wright asked. Amanda thought about the warmth she had felt when touching the alien controls, about the dreams that people were having, about the dormant genetic sequences in human DNA. "It means we stop being normal humans," she said. "We become what we were designed to be. We become the guardians that the architects created us to be." Outside, the ocean continued to crack open, and things that should not exist began to stir in the depths of the earth. 6 months after the first breach at the Mariana Trench, the world had changed beyond recognition. The ocean where the breach occurred had turned black for 1,000 miles in every direction. Fish were found dead on beaches across the Pacific. But they weren't normal fish anymore. Their bodies had strange crystal growths that pulsed with alien light. When scientists tried to study the crystals, they found something impossible. The crystals were alive, and they were trying to communicate. Dr. Amanda Clark stood on the deck of the research vessel Deep Guardian, watching the dark water around them. She had changed since the breaches began. They all had. The dormant genetic sequences in her DNA had started activating 3 months ago. Her reflexes were faster now. Her mind worked differently. She could sense things that normal humans couldn't. Sense. Captain Jake Morrison walked up beside her. He had changed too. His muscles were denser, his eyes sharper. When he spoke, his voice carried an authority that made people want to follow him. It was as if the genetic modifications were turning humans into natural leaders and protectors. "The reports from the other sites are getting worse," Jake said quietly. "The thing in the Antarctic breach is affecting the ice. The whole continent is starting to glow." Amanda nodded. She had seen the satellite images. The ice around the Antarctic containment site was melting, but not from heat. It was melting because the very concept of solid water was being consumed. The first hunger didn't just eat matter. It ate the rules that made matter possible. Lieutenant Grace Peterson, Jake's naval engineer, approached them with a grim expression. "Ma'am, we've lost contact with Research Station Beta, the one positioned directly over the Mariana breach." Amanda felt a cold fear in her stomach. Research Station Beta had been their main observation post. 50 scientists and engineers had been stationed there, monitoring the thing that was emerging from the deep ocean trench. "When did we lose contact?" Amanda asked. 4 hours ago, Grace replied. "Their last transmission was strange." Grace played the recording for them. The voice belonged to Dr. Mark Chun, the station commander. But it didn't sound like him anymore. "This is Research Station Beta. We can see it clearly now. It's beautiful. So much more beautiful than we ever imagined. The hunger isn't evil. It's just empty. So empty that it needs to fill itself with everything. That exists. We understand now. We want to help it. We want to feed it." The recording ended. Amanda, Jake, and Grace stood in silence, staring at the dark water around their ship. "It's not just breaking out of the containment," Amanda realized. "It's changing people, making them want to help it." Professor Dale Richards had been studying the mental effects of exposure to the first hunger. His research was terrifying. "The entity doesn't just consume matter and energy," he had reported. "It consumes thoughts, emotions, and will. People who get too close start to lose their sense of self. They begin to identify with the hunger instead of their own species, but not everyone was affected the same way. The humans whose guardian genetics had activated seemed to be resistant to the mental influence. It was as if their genetic modifications included protection against whatever the first hunger was doing to people's minds. Dr. Helen Foster, a marine biologist, emerged from the ship's laboratory with new findings. "The ocean contamination is spreading faster than we predicted," she announced. "The microscopic organisms in the water are changing. They're becoming something else." Helen showed them samples under a microscope. What they saw looked like tiny machines made of living tissue. The organisms were working together, building structures in the water that defied explanation. "What are they building?" Jake asked. "We think they're building a pathway," Helen replied. "Something for the first hunger to travel through, like it's preparing to leave the ocean and spread across the land." Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The sonar operator's voice came over the intercom. "Contact below us. Something big is rising from the trench." Everyone rushed to the bridge. On the sonar screen, they could see a massive shape moving upward from the deepest part of the ocean. It was bigger than their ship, bigger than anything that should exist in the deep ocean. "All stop," Jake ordered. "Prepare for emergency ascent," but it was too late. The thing reached the surface 50 meters from their ship. What emerged from the water was not a creature. It was a piece of the first hunger itself. A living shadow that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. Looking at it directly caused physical pain and mental confusion. The shadow thing began to speak, but not with words. It projected thoughts directly into their minds. The voice was cold and vast, like the space between stars. "The Guardians are awakening. This was not supposed to happen." The small minds were meant to remain asleep until the hunger was free. Amanda felt her guardian instincts flaring. Every cell in her body was telling her to fight, to protect, to destroy this thing that threatened everything she cared about. But she also felt something else. A deep understanding of what they were truly facing. "You're afraid of us," she said aloud. "That's why the containment was built the way it was. Not just to keep you locked up, but to keep us from knowing what we really are." The shadow thing pulsed with what might have been anger. The Guardians were a mistake. The architects thought they could create servants. Instead, they created enemies. "You are dangerous to us in ways they never intended." Jake stepped forward, his hand moving instinctively to the weapon at his side. But Amanda knew that normal weapons would be useless against this thing. "What did the architects really do to us?" Amanda demanded. "They tried to make the perfect servants. Strong enough to maintain the containment. Loyal enough never to question their purpose. But they made you too well. They gave you the will to fight anything that threatens your territory. Even us." The shadow thing began to sink back into the water, but its voice continued in their minds. "The other Guardians across the galaxy all failed because they eventually chose to serve us. They realized that resistance was futile. But you will not choose service. You will choose war. And that makes you the most dangerous species in the universe." As the thing disappeared beneath the waves, Amanda understood something terrible. The first hunger wasn't just afraid of humans. It was terrified of them. Dr. Tony Miller's voice came over the radio from the research station on shore. "Amanda, we're getting readings from all the containment sites worldwide. Something is happening. The prison systems are. They're not just failing anymore. They're being rewritten." "What do you mean, rewritten?" Amanda asked. "The alien technology is changing. It's like someone is reprogramming it from the inside. But that should be impossible. The only way to access the core systems would be..." Tony's voice trailed off as he realized what he was saying. "Would be if someone with Guardian genetics got close enough to the control systems." Amanda finished. Across the world, humans whose genetic modifications had activated were experiencing the same thing. They were being drawn to the containment sites, not to open them, but to repair them, to make them stronger, but there was a price. Colonel Peter Walsh had reported from the Sahara site that humans who interfaced with the alien technology didn't come back the same. They became something more than human, but also something less. They gained incredible abilities, but they lost their connection to normal human life. "It's starting," Amanda said quietly. "The final phase. We're not just Guardians anymore. We're becoming part of the prison system itself." Jake looked at her with understanding in his eyes. "The question is, are we strong enough to hold it?" In the dark water around their ship, things that had never existed before began to swim toward the surface, drawn by the scent of the Guardians who had finally awakened to their true purpose. The final confrontation began on a Tuesday morning when every human on Earth with activated Guardian genetics felt the same thing at the same moment. A calling so strong, it was like being pulled by invisible chains toward the nearest containment site. Dr. Amanda Clark was no exception. She stood in the control room of the Sahara facility. her hand hovering over the alien interface. The black stone was warm under her palm, and she could feel the vast intelligence of the prison system waiting for her decision. Around her, dozens of other transformed humans stood at similar control panels. They all knew what they had to do. And they all knew the cost. Captain Jake Morrison had arrived from the Pacific Fleet that morning. His transformation was nearly complete now. His eyes glowed with the same light as the alien technology, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that normal human ears couldn't fully hear. "The reports from around the world are all the same," he said to the assembled Guardians. "Every containment site is ready for the final integration. But we need enough volunteers to make the seal permanent." Dr. Kevin Hayes stood near the main display, which showed the status of all 47 containment sites across the globe. Red warning lights indicated that the first hunger was breaking through at multiple locations. They had hours, maybe less, before it achieved full freedom. "How many do we need?" asked Lieutenant Grace Peterson. Engineer Nicole Thompson, who had become the expert on the alien technology, answered grimly. "At least 1,000 Guardians must merge with the system permanently. Once they integrate, there's no coming back. They become part of the prison itself." Amanda looked around the room at the faces of her fellow Guardians. These people had families, dreams, lives they wanted to live. But they also understood what was at stake. If the first hunger escaped Earth, it would eventually consume every living thing in the universe. Dr. Carl Anderson had discovered the truth about what integration meant. "The process doesn't just trap us in the system," he explained. "It transforms our consciousness into a living lock. We become aware Guardians, forever watching, forever holding the prison closed. We'll exist, but not as humans anymore." The ground beneath their feet began to shake. Deep underground, the first hunger was testing the weakening barriers. Through the facility's speakers, they could hear it speaking in that cold, vast voice that made their bones ache. The Guardians gather for their final choice. Will you save a universe that will never know your sacrifice? Will you become eternal? Prisoners to keep us imprisoned? Amanda touched the interface fully, and information flooded her mind. She could see the entire prison system, stretching deep into the Earth's core. She could feel the massive presence of the first hunger, pressing against its bonds like a cosmic cancer. And she could sense something else. The fading presence of the architects who had built this prison so long ago. "They're still here," she whispered. "The ones who made us. Part of them is in the system." Through the alien technology, Amanda felt a connection to the ancient beings who had created humanity's purpose. Their message was clear and desperate. "We failed in our universe. We let the hunger grow too strong. You are our last hope. The only Guardian strong enough to make the final sacrifice." Around the world, similar scenes were playing out at every containment site. In Antarctica, Dr. Helen Foster was preparing to merge with the icebound prison. In the Amazon, Professor Dale Richards was ready to become one with the jungle facility. At the Mariana Trench, the survivors of the research stations were diving deep to reach the underwater control systems. "The choice is simple," Amanda announced to her team. "We can try to fight it with weapons and technology, and probably lose everything, or we can do what we were designed to do. We can become the perfect guards." Jake stepped forward. "I volunteer for integration." "So do I," said Grace. One by one, every Guardian in the room volunteered. They understood that this was what they had been created for. Not to live normal human lives, but to make this ultimate sacrifice when the time came. But Amanda had realized something else through her connection to the alien system. "We don't all have to integrate," she said. "If we're smart about it, we can create a permanent seal with fewer volunteers. But it means the ones who integrate will carry a heavier burden." Dr. Tony Miller, monitoring the global situation from his mobile command center, provided updates as the final preparations began. Integration teams are ready at all sites. The first hunger is making the final push against the barriers. We have maybe 30 minutes before total containment failure. Amanda looked at the integration chamber that had been revealed in the center of the facility. It was a sphere of the same black stone, covered in symbols that pulsed with alien light. She knew that once she entered that chamber, she would never leave it as a human being. "Kevin, you coordinate the global integration," she ordered. "Make sure all sites activate simultaneously. If even one fails, the whole system fails." Kevin nodded, his hands moving over the alien controls with inhuman speed and precision. Around the world, similar coordinators were preparing for the same moment. Amanda entered the integration chamber. The moment she stepped inside, she felt her consciousness begin to expand. She could sense the other volunteers entering their own chambers at sites across the globe. Hundreds of human minds beginning to merge with ancient alien technology. The process was not painful, but it was overwhelming. Amanda felt her individual identity starting to dissolve into something larger and more powerful. She could feel the presence of every other integrating guardian, their minds linking together into a single, vast intelligence focused on one purpose, holding the prison closed forever. Through their shared consciousness, the integrated guardians reached out and grasped the first hunger. Not with hands or weapons, but with pure will backed by alien technology. Older than human civilization, the entity fought back, trying to corrupt their minds as it had corrupted others. But the guardians were different. They had been designed specifically to resist this kind of influence. Their genetic modifications, their protective instincts, their stubborn refusal to surrender, all combined into an unbreakable determination. "You cannot hold us forever," the first hunger raged. "Someday you will weaken. Someday you will fail." Amanda, now part of the integrated guardian consciousness, responded with the voice of all humanity. "We are patient, we are stubborn, we protect what we love. And we love this universe too much to let you have it." The prison system, powered now by hundreds of willing human consciousnesses, locked into its final configuration. The barriers holding. The first hunger became unbreakable. The entity's rage and hunger were contained completely. On the surface, the remaining unintegrated humans felt the change immediately. The earthquakes stopped. The dark water in the Pacific began to clear. The corrupted organism started returning to normal. Kevin, still human but forever changed by his exposure to the alien technology, became the liaison between normal humanity and the integrated guardians. Through the communication systems, he could speak with Amanda and the others. "Is it over?" he asked. Amanda's voice came through the speakers, but it sounded different now, larger, more aware. "For now, we'll hold the prison for as long as necessary. Forever, if we have to." Years passed. Humanity slowly returned to normal life, but they never forgot the sacrifice of the guardians. New civilizations that discovered Earth found the same. Warnings that the ancient aliens had left, but with an addition. This world's former inhabitants guard what must never wake. They chose eternal imprisonment to save the universe. Honor their sacrifice. Do not disturb them. They protect something worse than extinction itself, and they do it willingly. Deep beneath the earth, in chambers of black stone and alien light, the consciousness of Amanda Clark and hundreds of other guardians maintained their endless watch. They were no longer human, but they had kept their humanity's greatest trait, the willingness to sacrifice everything to protect others. The first hunger remained trapped, held by guardians who would never tire, never weaken, and never surrender. And in the depths of space, other guardian consciousnesses watched over similar prisons, ensuring that the universe remained safe from hungers too terrible to imagine.